No one expected I would ever get this far. And were it not for a near suicidal depressive breakdown 5 years ago, I wouldn't be. That's right, discovering I had depression saved my life. Because up till then, I was just like every other clueless entrepreneur searching for an easy button, constantly bouncing from one guru and get-rich scheme to another, yet still completely in the dark about what I was supposed to do with my life. But that was then, and this is now, and you and I both know we are ready to get serious about living the life we love, not just existing in it. We are ready to break out, break in, if need be, break up to be the person we truly want to be, living a life we are ready to fight for. Now for me, this means doing everything I can to help you, the struggling entrepreneur, miss every roadblock I ever crashed into. Because after all this time, there's two things I know for sure. One, success don't come easy, and two, it damn sure hurts less when you start with the right knowledge and understanding. That's why each week I'm going to be talking to a who's who of today's brightest stars. But here's the twist. Anyone who comes on the show has to take the success test. Then we use their results to break down what's working for them, what hasn't worked, and how their score relates to the struggles they've seen along the way. But my dream for you is that this is not just a podcast. This is the start of a movement in a moment, galvanizing you, the listener, to figure out what is keeping you stuck, keeping you on your couch, in your chair, keeping you from making it your daily mission to move forward towards your heart-centered business dreams. All right. Hey, welcome to Radically Unstuck. My name is Brian Forsyth, and I want to remind you, this is not just a podcast. This is a movement in a moment. This is a movement in a moment, the moment you decide for it to be your release, your path to freedom. And with that, I want to tell you, we have an amazing guest today. He is not just a triathlete, an author, a mad motivator, good soul and positive thinking activist. He is an amazing human. And I'm so glad that he is on the show. Brian Benson, please introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks for the kind welcome, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here. So gosh, I feel like I've lived many lifetimes. I don't do the triathlons anymore, but I did, they took up about, 20 years of my life off and on, and it was a wonderful experience. But in a nutshell, I love to create positive content in a lot of different ways, whether it's a self-help book or a kid's book or a short film or a spoken word video or a presentation, you name it. And it's I honestly didn't know that it was really inside of me until I left my family business about 11 years ago. And it was quite a journey that I went on, and I just listened to a lot of intuitive breadcrumbs along the way and just kind of kept following them and stepping out of my comfort zone, and one thing led to another.
Yeah, and that's really one of the things that we sort of focus on in this little podcast. Mm-hmm. And that is this idea of really being open and going with the flow and sort of letting life teach us. Mm-hmm. And so with that, speaking of teaching, what is your nugget that you're bringing to us today that will make a real difference for our listeners?
Well, I think, everything that I've created, that I kind of just mentioned a second ago, they've all been extensions of my own self-growth process. And so I think that it's so important to get to know ourselves and become as self-aware as we can. And, we're all here to learn and grow. And I think I've found that I've had to work on it really, really hard, but I almost feel like the thing that was the toughest for me to do was to learn how to really love and accept myself. And that is the thing that can also really hold us back if we're not there. You know what I mean? And so I think anything that you can do to cut yourself some slack or pat yourself on the back or let go of some of the things that have happened in the past, that might still be stories that you tell yourself, they're not you anymore, you know. And so just the more that a person can do to step into the real version of themselves, you know, just by accepting yourself for who you are and what you have to work with. I really try to kind of get that message out there.
It's not by accident that you're on the show, because that is a point that I try to bring home to people, in both in my book and, you know, in the, you know, various talks or whatever, is that, you know, we have to be able to cut ourselves some slack and to, you know, and let us, you know, like if I could do anything for humanity tomorrow, it would be give them a pill that would basically, you know, wipe away about half of their memory, so that, you know, they would be more of a blank slate. And that's really, I mean, I don't know, you probably can speak on this, but that's really kind of the idea of you know, of this radical self-acceptance, you know, which is letting those mistakes go.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I know it's not easy, and it takes some time sometimes, and it's a process. But the more that we, you know, can become self-aware, and there's a lot of ways we can do it. But you know, and for me, balance was a huge part of my life, and my first book was on a whole bunch of different ways to stay in balance. As I learned those tools, I was able to kind of set my routine up in a really healthy way, which kind of kept me from, you know, spinning out, or maybe which keeps us in those stories even more, in our heads even more, right? And so the more in flow I got, you know, balance is a moving target, so we're not always going to be in balance. But the more tools you have in your toolbox to you know, go do those things that are higher vibrational, the easier it gets. And you know, and movement is really important for me, like exercise. And while I don't train anymore for do triathlons, I still get out and hike a lot, and ride my bike sometimes. And so, you know, and then creativity, that's another way to really just start to kind of tap into it, you know, that other source. And I don't know, I think creativity is so important for everybody. And for me, it was life changing as I began to create and you know, the extensions of my own self-growth process. I just, my confidence grew, and my, you know, self-acceptance, you know, got righted a little bit. And, you know, there's a lot of different things we can do to kind of point ourselves in the right direction.
Yeah, those are some powerful tips, and I want to bring those. I want to you know, accentuate some things. One is this idea of having powerful, you know, self-sustaining your patterns in your life. You know, especially like I have dealt with, you know, near suicidal, depressive, you know, issues. And one of the things that still keeps me grounded, and the things, you know, one of the things that I try to, you know, help people with, is figuring out, you know, life rhythms and patterns that are sustaining, you know, and I think that's kind of, you know,
exactly
one of the things you can kind of talk about a minute.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, I think we're on the same wavelength for sure. It's just about getting those positive habits and routines incorporated into our life, and everything just starts to get a little bit easier, and we start getting momentum. And as we get momentum, our confidence grows, and we just start to kind of dig ourselves out of those holes that we kind of find ourselves in sometimes.
Yeah, and that's really the thing, right? Is you know, kind of assessing the places that we are, and being honest with ourselves, you know, both where we are and where we want to go. And speaking of where we want to go, where can we go to find you, G. Brian Benson, to really delve into more of what you have to offer?
No, thanks for asking, Brian. My website's just gbrian with an I Benson.com, gbrianbenson.com. And then My latest book, which I'm really proud of, is called Habits for Success. It's at habitsforsuccessbook.com.
And definitely, how many books have you written?
5.
All right, so at this point, he's probably got it right. I mean, he's written 5 books. This is somebody that, this is probably a good read. So I highly recommend y'all try to look this guy up. And if you can, definitely catch one of his podcasts. He's definitely somebody who speaks the truth, and I would encourage the listeners to go and search him out and really delve into what he's offering.
Thank you.
And the only thing I have to say, to my listeners is be kind to yourself. That is like, just ask yourself, is the thought, is the emotion kind? Would you want your best friend to feel it or say it? And if you wouldn't, then let it go and be free. And with that, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I really want to thank Mr. G. Brian Benson for being on the show. And we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.